Hi, this is Dr. Scott, and today we're going to talk about the BOI. We're not even going to do the intro video here because I want to just jump into this here. Now, remember, hey guys, if you could do me a favor, can you like and subscribe, share this with your friends? I promise you it makes a difference. Okay. All right. So let me show you the BOI thing because most people don't know anything about it. All right. BOI is only for, or it's supposed to be only for businesses, beneficial ownership information. Like, does it benefit me? What the flock do you want about this kind of thing? So it's a regulation, a formal regulation filing that goes to the Treasury. It was introduced during President Trump's timeframe, and he knocked it down. Who needs to file? Corporations, LLCs, and similar agencies, right? But here's the funniest thing. If and I'm going to show you a little bit more. Sorry, I have it on the wrong part of the screen. And it asks your legal name, information, key. Then it talks about filing deadlines, right? And staying informed and regular audits and all this other stuff that is such a freaking lie. Because what they don't tell you is like it's for everyone. And I'm going to even show you a couple of videos by a couple people and how they actually think about this. Let's talk about the dates that let's see here. I'm going to show you dates on this one. Okay. When was the sucker enacted? Well, guess what? It was January 2021. Trump pushed this down before January 6th. Interesting kind of date, isn't it? So, and then it went through a snot load of how should we say, like court cases. Because here's what happens. As a business, and I'm going to take this off the screen for just a second, but as a business owner, I have to set up a bank account because this is what it's about. It's about bank accounts. It's about me moving money, right? And what it says is that I have to file with the Treasury all about my information. Like, wait a second, you already have it through the Fed. When I sign up a business bank account, I don't just have to put name, address, phone number, social security number, right? Like you normally do, and maybe like a proof of your placement. You have to like show all kinds of other information related to your corporation. And this is a very common thing. They already know this. And every single person that is involved in that company actually has to be a part of that filing if they're more than like 25% owner kind of thing. That already exists. And then you go, wait a second, why are they bringing this up? So here's what happens. In 2024, it begins to take effect. And thousands of these things come in. And here's what it happens to most people. They look at it and they go, well, I got to do it, right? I got to accomplish this. Now, here's the fascinating part that comes in. And in December 3rd of 2024, see, and I started learning about this late. I'm late to the game, and I find out about it in November. And I'm going to tell you more about what I found out about that circumstance. But I said, oh, hell no, I'm not going to file that particular thing. And I'll show you kind of why I said this thing. Well, there was a court case in Alabama that said no, these certain entities didn't have to do it. But then there was a federal court case in Texas, right? It's a U.S. District Court in Eastern District of Texas, and said this CTA Corporate Transparency Act, and it is unconstitutional, and no one nationwide had to do this. So the government begins its appeal process, right, in December 5th and December 8th. Now, I'm going to come back to this in a second, but I want to throw in a thing that occurred. Now, I personally know about there are major hackings that are going on in Tulsa County with hospitals and a whole bunch of different organizations. All of you have heard about hacking on levels that are unbelievable in the last couple years. And the question you have to ask yourself, why? I mean, hacking has always been around, but it's never been in the veracity and intensity that it's happened in the last little while here. Watch this little funny video that you might think it's interesting because here's you first off, you have to know who's this going to. It's the Treasury. And who drove this thing? Janet Yellen. By the way, Janet Yellen retired or resigned. So I have a lot of these idiots right before Trump takes office. Have you ever heard of all these different agencies? The FBI, I think ATF, Treasury. I mean, I can't even count them all because they keep dropping like flies. I've never seen them quit minutes before, and I'm going to give you some answers about that kind of thing. Watch this little video here.
I'm Atrell Nashar in Washington, where the Treasury Department says Chinese hackers have breached its systems in what's being classified as a major cybersecurity incident.
A cyber attack at the U.S. Treasury Department. Intelligence officials say the culprit is China. In this letter sent to leaders of the Senate Banking Committee Monday, the Treasury says it was notified on December 8th by third-party software provider Beyond Trust that a threat actor gained access to a key used by the vendor to secure a cloud-based service used to remotely provide technical support for the department.
Wait a second, December 8th. Now let's go back to these dates here, right? January 2024, December 3rd. And here's what happens. Like December 3rd, they cut it off, but December 8th, and we're just hearing about this today. It always happens in the past. They never tell you about it until afterward, right? December 3rd, it says that they can't do this. December 6th, they're going through and pushing through their own orders. And I'm going to get farther into that here again. Here's actual BOI website. Well, at December 27th, the impact of litigation, voluntary submission only. What? Again, this is trying to say who has to do it. Now, let me show you some funny things that tell you some interesting points. It tells you exempt from reporting entities. Now, what is the Corporate Transparency Act? It's trying to do with two things. Number one, for human trafficking, and number two, for money laundering, right? If you're picking groups of people who have ever done this. Now, if you ever watched the Reacher series season 2, but if you watch almost anything on money laundering, drug trafficking, I mean, any movie, any circumstance, anything you've ever researched, see who the potential agencies are. Okay, these people are not allowed. Security reporting issuer. A security reporting issue. Government authority. Anyone who's in government of any type. Now, your local sheriff, maybe I could get away with that one, but a state senator, a mayor, a governor, a U.S. senator. Wait a second. How come they don't have to do it? Banks don't have to do it. Credit unions, but depository institution holding companies. What? Why don't they have to do it? A holding company doesn't have to do it. A holding company moves money back and forth. Money service businesses. Why? Broker and dealer in securities, security exchange and clearinghouse, exchange, other people in part of the Exchange Act, investment companies, venture capital, insurance, state licensed insurance producer. Now I can almost love this one. That's like someone who does a farmer's insurance or whatever, right? I can almost live with that. That's a small business normally. Commodity Exchange Act, registered entity. Accounting firm, public utility, financial market, pooled investment vehicle. What? Tax exempt entity. Now that's a 501c3, 501. I mean, okay. so a church doesn't necessarily have to do it. Okay, fine. Entity assisting and tax exempt entity. Like, come on. Any large corporation over $5 million, an active entity. Like, wait a second. If I'm picking a group of people who would accomplish money laundering and human trafficking, wouldn't you find it on this list here? Tell me that you don't find it on the list of brokers, credits, authorities, venture capitalists, insurance firm, public utilities. Those ones don't have to do this. Like, here's the constitutionality that I look at. The Fourth Amendment actually says this: the right of the people to secure in persons, house, papers, effects, against any unreasonable search and seizure shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by the oath or confirmation, of affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the person's things to be seized. Treasury wants to audit, which is a seizure and a search point, me as a small business, and yet none of these morons here, these morons here have to be a part of it. That's the definition of violation of the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. Do you understand the point here? Now, let's watch another little video here, and you're going to see some of the statements that they also bring up.
With the BOI, the whiplash. I know. I just told you in this video yesterday, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled earlier this week that yes, if you own almost any type of business that operates.
Okay, so after Texas did their thing, the Fifth Court of Appeals met on December 23rd. Now, you might not think that's a big, interesting date, but December 23rd, 1913, the Federal Reserve came into being. Why is it that date? It's because only a third of Senate were there. They're all on their Christmas break. Why? Where are they going? Because by the 20th of December 20th, they had to meet and have their budget issue, or they couldn't, and they passed their idiot budget things, right? So they're on break. Now, the Fifth Court of Appeals comes in and rules that business owners might file this. And you're going, wait a second. It was three guys, under their little claws that got to say their idiotic point. Listen to the difference here.
In the United States under a new law, you were required to file BOI, beneficial ownership information. And that had to be done by January 13th, so in just a few weeks. Well, late last night, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed its own decision. Wild, I know. The Fifth Circuit now says they want to pause their own ruling so the parties in this case can argue whether the Corporate Transparency Act, which is the law that established the BOI, is constitutional or not. The appeals court said in this latest order they were doing this to preserve the constitutional status quo while the merits panel considers the parties' weighty substantive arguments.
So think about what she just was talking about. See, what most people look at this and they say, I see a law that I must conform to, right? And I go, when do you push back on laws that are repugnant? What the flock does that mean? Go back to the Fourth Amendment, the search and seizure. Go back to whom? Oops, sorry, click on the wrong part there. These people don't ever have to file it. Hey, listen, if you required every single business in America to file it, you might get away with a statement of, hey, listen, the constitutionality is taken into effect because everyone's complying, every single business type of any type has to comply with this kind of thing so that we can watch for human trafficking and money laundering. Okay, I might have done that, right? And yet we see the stupidity here. Now, let me show you. Here's what I want you to see. Remember, I showed you where they were hacked on December 8th. So look at these dates here. Texas files their thing, that then they're going, no, wait a second, we're not going to do it. We go back to December 23rd. She's told you about it. The Fifth Court says, no, you can't do this. And then they changed their mind. They reinstated it in December 2017. See, they pushed the date back to January 13th here, right? Instead of January 1 today, right? And then they go, well, what is the future going to hold? Well, they're going to go through and do courts of appeals, and they're trying to do this right in the same time frame before Trump gets in office. And I say to you this, guys, what's going on when the Court of Appeals does all these reversals back and forth, and on top of that, they do an illegal order. No one can read the Constitution. They don't want to read the Constitution. And you say, well, I can't afford, by the way, this if information here. I'm going to show you what they tell you. Let me kind of back up to a interesting point. Look at the civil penalties. $592 a day, $10,000 fine, up to. Wait a second. There are people who have raped and pillaged people, and they don't get this kind of fine. A fine for this kind of thing? Do you not see the unconstitutionality of this? Do you not see the nature of Joe Biden's idiotic circumstance? And Janet Yellen isn't even in office anymore. And I've said to this, listen, when the laws of man violate the laws of God, God says, hey, listen, don't do this. And I'm telling you right inside of my heart, I'm not doing this. And I'm putting myself out there in ways you don't understand. That's not something I can afford either. But I'm telling you right now, I'm taking a stand because this is unconstitutional, and everyone online is not taking a stand and saying, this is a repugnant law. This is illegal. This is you trying to run roughshod over the people and our constitutional rights. No more. And I call for Donald Trump to step in and say, shove off, you idiots, because this is not going to happen. I don't believe we should go forward with this. And if you're going to stand with me, see, a lot of people are tired. A lot of people are frustrated, but you just got me mad here. And I'm telling you right now, I'm standing in the gap for you. Stand with me. Okay? Stand with me. Like and subscribe. Leave your comments. I'd love to hear it, kind of stuff. But listen, sometimes you have to stand up against the enemy. This is the enemy of God coming against the people. And this is unconstitutional in every way, shape, and form. Are you going to stick with me?